There's so many things that rob our time and attention. A lot of it, and especially in our four place, it's valuing myself enough. Like it's the feeling I'm worth it. My time is important. And yeah, I could do X, Y, and Z, or this and that person wants me to do this and that. But I have to create a few boundaries to carve out the time to do my, in your case, photography. And there can be value in having inspiring conversations with friends and allies about that. There are people who feed our creative energy, and there are people who drain our creative energy. And you start to know which is which. And but beyond that, I think it's just when we're trying to change a habitual pattern in our life, we can be too ambitious at the beginning, and then we fail, and then our inner critic does a number on us, says, you see, this is the truth of the situation. Here's what you can expect, right? So making little adjustments and succeeding at them is better. So if you say, okay, this week I'm going to spend 1 hour focused in some real creative way with my photography, 1 hour. Everything else can just be its usual self, but I'm going to give 1 hour to that. And I find that if you do that and succeed at it, you can expand on it. You can build on it. Once we have a successful momentum at something we've done as a positive change, it's a lot easier than, again, trying to make some gigantic sea change out of the middle of nowhere. And also to just, and we'll talk about this too, be aware of the inner voices that sap your strength. A lot of the vampires aren't necessarily people out there. They're in our head. Nobody talks me out of my creativity more than I do. And I have to learn to discern and recognize, oh, that's that old voice again. If I listen to that, I'm going to go right down the tubes. I have a history of depression, so I have to watch it just from the point of view. Some of those voices lead me right back into the depression, so I can't indulge them. And in the same way, there are voices that really talk us out of using our time wisely for things we care about, for things we love. And I think if you just even get a little bit more time in it, the joy and the energy and the inner freedom and the richness of doing something that we love to do starts to take on a life of its own. But we have to kind of get over that initial hump, which is, I think, what you're describing. And everybody in here who's ever tried to do anything creative knows exactly what you're talking about. There's particularities of the four personality in relation to that, but there's also elements of that are true for anyone trying to be creative. And the last thing I'd say to you, one thing I'm really big on, and I was talking about this with Catherine just the other day, creativity in a kind of law of three way requires, on the one end, discipline, and on the other end, spontaneity. Some types really believe in the spontaneity. We don't want any limits, any structures, nothing. If I had everything I need and nobody had any demands on me and I didn't have to deal with anybody, then my creativity will flow. Well, should you ever get such a situation, you generally find out that your creativity stops, because creativity comes out of our life and out of our interactions with nature, with humans, with animals, it's living our life in relationship is how creativity comes forth. So if we really get that much freedom, we're in trouble, usually. The other side of it is the discipline. Some people are so disciplined, they get rigid and there's no wiggle room for a new idea to come out. So it's through the discipline of presence, the whole main thing we're learning from the Enneagram, that we find a beautiful pivot point where we've got the discipline and structure we need. 1 hour, hell or high water, I am going to work on my photography. And I get to choose what hour it is and be specific about it. On Thursday at 4:00, I'm doing X, right? And at the same time, you get there's an element of playfulness. and what you're going to do when you get there, and what you might. Once we've made those kind of decisions, it's like giving a yes to the creative forces in us, and they'll start sending signals. The only other thing, it's funny how these questions lead to all sorts of ideas. I tell people also, another practice Julia Cameron had that I really valued was doing morning pages. And if you've never done morning pages, read her book, you'll find out all about them. She talks a lot about them. But it's just sitting down, and you can type or you can write freehand. I think this works a little better if you write it freehand. And you just write like automatically for a few minutes in the morning, just for 3 pages. Just get all the junk out of your head. Just write it all down. Just, it's like clearing the runway of debris so that something can flow through. And that can also be a help. So, this is all the kind of stuff we're going to be looking at. Can you tell I'm excited about this? It's like putting together my 2 great loves, the Enneagram and the presence and the inner work and creativity. But I think they're intimately connected. It's not like a false, synthesis. Yeah.